How many of you have issues with the public school system where you can't believe what they're teaching the kids? I guarantee you, no matter how crazy your story is, you're about to hear crazier ones. Unfortunately, the state is trying to do everything they possibly can to hide what's going on with your kids in schools, which is absolutely insane because a lot of these teachers' unions, a lot of these schools, believe they should be your parents, the parents of your kids. So there's an initiative this time on the ballot to make sure that parents actually get to know what's going on with kids in schools. And we have to do it again because the Democrats gutted it last time around. So we've got a few parents up here, and we're just going to go down the line. Introduce yourselves, please. Start right here.
Jody Holman.
Jody Holman.
Alicia Perkins.
Bill Sullivan.
Thanks so much for being here, guys. Appreciate it. So Jody, I'll start with you. Why are you so passionate about this?
My child, Eleanor Holman, is still currently missing, and a lot of that was due to the interference of the public school system in Washington and getting themselves wedged between parent and child relationship.
Hold your face a little bit more. That's okay. Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that. So when you've been trying to find your daughter, has the school been trying to help you at all, or they're part of the problem?
So for our specific case, Eleanor is currently missing and had left from our home after we had moved to Texas, but we had been longtime Washingtonians, for our entire lives. So we literally have left our home state and fled due to the intervening public school system into our family relationship.
I'm so sorry. So sorry. Have you spoken to other people who've had similar experiences like this before?
I have spoken to a few other families, and we've also been a part of the amicus brief with our story going to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we are hoping that the U.S. Supreme Court will then take into consideration the experiences that have been lived with families like ours and others in Washington and Oregon and other states around the country. We are hoping that the families that have these experiences can find some solace, but the main goal that I know most of us are agreeing upon is that we want to prevent this from happening to other families because we don't want this. We hate the experience that we're having with the government coming in to our home and telling us how to raise our child, but we know that this could still potentially happen to other families, and if we can prevent that from happening, would be ideal.
This is exactly the thing Senate Bill 5599 a lot of people cautioned about, and now it's actually happening in real life. This is a real life example of it, and I don't think people realize how serious this is. This can happen. It's happening in your family.
Yeah, it is. We've talked about it a little bit. I've done a couple of other interviews, and it baffles me that we as parents, we're doing everything we can to raise our child and to care for our child, get our child into healthcare services as needed, and then to have the counselors and the school administration come in and say, well, we need to plug your child into services, we need to plug your child into more care. And I said, what more care does this child need? We not only have them seeing healthcare professionals 3 and 4 times a week, these healthcare professionals come to our home, they come to the school, they work with you. What other things do they need? And what it wasn't exactly how the school thought that we should be applying these services. It wasn't how the child thought we should be applying these services. It went against what the medical professionals in our situation were advising. It went against us as parents, all because the agenda was get the child as fast-tracked into gender care services as possible, regardless of the mental health, regardless of the other issues that were happening. It didn't matter that we were taking care of it. It didn't matter that we were willing to have discussions. It just mattered that we didn't act upon it faster.
Alicia, we use your stuff on my show all the time. We've used your material. You have a Substack where you cover this kind of stuff. I think Brandy ran a documentary about the Olympia School District, given how crazy it is. So why don't you tell us a little example of the things you've encountered?
I'm Alicia, and I live in Olympia, which I kind of refer to as the belly of the beast in Washington as far as how bad things have gotten in the public school system. and I had 3 kids in it. I'm a product of the Olympia School District. And what I realized about 5-6 years ago was that people were mostly unaware of how bad things had gotten in terms of secrecy from parents, and that these things had become policy. These were not rogue teachers. This was actually policy in Washington State and policy in schools to keep secrets from parents. A child had a breakdown and finally went to her parents, and to make a very long story short, they literally left the country to flee what was happening to their school because they had become so afraid that the school could potentially take their own child if they did not acquiesce to what they wanted to do with her gender at school. And what I realized at that time was this was not an isolated incident. Things that have happened to Jody's family, these are not isolated incidents. I hear from families multiple times a month where this is happening to their children at school. And it is devastating. It's devastating to families, and we have to start taking back some of the control and giving it back to parents. We cannot have schools that operate under the premise that parents are all abusive.
My wife and I, public school advocates. My wife's a hotshot public school teacher, since retired to take care of kids. But we had an incident when my daughter was 16, Sadie's sitting over there. She texted us, and there was a boy in the girls' locker room. And it has not only happened once, but it's happened multiple times. I confronted the school district, and naturally they just blew me off, threw fairy dust in my face, and told me to go away. So then I did some looking into it. I did some records requests, and I found out that this is actually an endemic issue that is going on. Lots of parents are complaining. And so then I look into the underlying policy, district statewide policy 3211, and as Alicia was saying, it's institutionalized. So it's our little secret between the school district staff and the kids has now been institutionalized in state policy, and that's what we're aiming to get unwound. Because what's happening is this is a opportunity for predators to prey on our children, not only sexually, emotionally, spiritually, and through the context of this gender confusion that's occurring. So I'll tell you how it's done very quickly, Ari. One, they give kids these surveys, and first, they broke their mental health during COVID. That's what that was all about. And now, to fix their mental health, they are offering free surveys in the schools, mental health surveys. The staff goes ahead and makes a referral to mental health services. The school district contracts with a mental health provider. Most of these are out of state. It's one-on-one mental health counseling with no other adult supervision, with people that are out of state with children as young as 10 years old. They make a diagnosis, and then the school district contracts with community health services in the school to provide all kinds of mental health, behavioral health, and cross-sex hormone type of puberty blocker type of treatment to these students. And so this is all occurring, everything that I've just described is occurring without the parents' knowledge by policy.
The fact that they then network within themselves with outside resources. In our case, they plugged my child into a center where runaway teens can go, and it was a center that was focused on LGBTQ plus teens, but they accept any teens. And then that center put my child in touch with free law services to try and then attempt to sever parental rights based on allegations of abuse due to not affirming a gender of choice, which vacillates in some of these instances. So it's so difficult to pin down. And so not only is this coming from in the school where we're just pushing it, but then the schools are networking with other government-funded entities outside of the district and telling these kids it's okay. So they've literally set it up to create the problem of the children running away. These kids run away. The state is now saying, you don't have to tell your parent. We won't tell your parent. And then let's get you a lawyer. state funded.
All state funded. Thank you. Alicia.
I would just say that this initiative is so paramount in our state. If we don't start stepping back to some sanity on this issue, I would not recommend that anybody put their kids in public school anymore. And that is with the amount of wonderful teachers that we have. Sometimes they're under the thumb of all of these policies themselves. I would say that about 20 years ago, it would have been universally understood that when an adult told a child that they were going to keep secrets from their parents, there was something wrong with that adult, and that has now been institutionalized. That is now school policy. So we need to reverse that ASAP this November.
And Bill.
Yeah, probably number one thing you can do is get involved somehow. I mean, are you afraid of being called names? Are you afraid of being called transphobic or hateful? We're way past that point. Our charge is to protect these children, and the state has institutionalized violence against them in the dark, under the cover of darkness. So what can we do about that? Well, one is go to school board meetings. Get everything into the public record. Every time you write a teacher or write a superintendent or administrator, that email goes into the public record. Challenge them on these policies. It's 3211. It's implemented in practically every district around the state under the same number. What else can you do? File public information requests. You will be surprised and, dare I say, horrified what you find parents are complaining about, and even staff, of what's occurring in these schools, in the locker rooms, the bathrooms, and the PE classes. They are institutionalizing violence against our children's innocence. And so there are a number of ways to get involved. Another, okay, is run for school district. Odd years are typically school district years. Consider backing somebody, recruit somebody for school district board. And then lastly is consider filing, and this is related to a different panel, but considering filing a Title IX complaint, because these districts that are allowing boys and girls sports, boys and girls locker rooms, boys and girls bathrooms, those are in violation of federal law, because they're taking federal money to fund their programs, and they have a Title IX compliance officer at every district in the state. That compliance officer is out of compliance and therefore violating the law if these things are occurring in your district. Thank you.
So just to emphasize Bill's point for a minute, with my kids, they're given the survey in school. You don't even know they're giving it to them. They think it's required by the state. My kid's private school didn't know about that. This thing wasn't required. You can opt out of it. And it starts giving the kids ideas. But also what happens is they say, we have a solution for you. Send your kid to this homework center at the University of Washington. And when we said, well, if the kid's doing something like cutting themselves, will you tell us about it? Well, sure. Well, what if they don't like the gender they're in? Oh, no, we're not going to tell you that. This is how they have institutionalized this in schools. And as I say it now, I sound like a conspiracy theorist. But you've got people up here who are literally living it right now. You have to go out there and tell these stories. Tell these stories, and you have to vote yes to make sure we keep parental rights. To make sure we have the rights that no school, no state, no anything can take away with us.